Hi, everyone. This is Justin Olbrantz,
And this is Don Schaefer.
and you are listening to the Wise and the Wandering podcast. For those who know the way, and for those who are led astray. And if you feel like you fall into either of those categories, then you're in the right place. So let's dive in. So, Don, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, Justin, I think we've got ourselves an interesting one here. I think we're going to talk a little bit about being honest with yourself.
Being honest with yourself.
Yes. Being able to really look at things in an honest way, because a lot of times what happens with people is they live a lie. They live a life that's not truly honest with themselves as far as what they should or could be doing. There's so much out there that is tainted. Because I know in Scripture, it talks about where Jesus says, I am the truth, the life, and the way. And it talks about our adversary being the father of lies. Yep. And what has happened a lot of times in life is we get caught up in it, Justin. Yeah. We get caught up in this stuff, and all of a sudden we're living a lie. It's not the reality of what life is really meant to be. Yeah,
that's 100% true. And I would say we're often told not to lie to people. And that's the thing is, you shouldn't lie to people. I think it's about having integrity in your life, is being honest with other people and being honest about situations that are in your life. But in this specific topic, it's about honesty in all aspects of our life, but especially in being honest with ourselves. I think a lot of the times we get into things and we go through situations in our life and we go through patterns and stuff like that, and it all comes down to having some kind of deception in our life. Yeah. Like you were saying, we live in a world that's full of lies, and it's kind of fake in a way.
That's true.
And there's so many different inauthentic things that we're surrounded by, and we sometimes find ourselves in situations where we're not completely honest with ourselves about the possible outcomes before getting into them. Yeah. And that allows us to make the same bad decisions and allows us to then make bad habits out of those decisions and stuff like that. But it all comes down to leading a life of honesty. So that's what we want to talk on today, is how important honesty is in our lives. And doing that not only with other people, but understanding that deception that comes in our lives is toxic, and it really is it's like a cancer. Yeah. It can start out small, and it turns into something so big it can consume your entire life. It can cause illnesses, whatever. It can make you sick. I think I've even read it somewhere where it says our secrets make us sick.
Yeah,
right. Those things that we don't talk about, that we push deep down, and we keep pushing them down. We keep pushing them down. That deception. Yes. So I think that's what we want to talk about today, is that honesty, and particular being honest with yourself.
Yeah. That's true, Justin. And I know, the Bible says that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Yeah. And a lot of us, we get ourselves in life, and we're born in life. It's interesting, there's a nature that we have when we're born into this world. When we're young, we don't have to teach our children how to lie. They pick this stuff up all by themselves, because there's a natural nature. Because if you want to get back into things, with Adam and Eve, what they lost was the Spirit of God living in their lives, and they were a natural human nature. So the ways of our adversary, the father of lies, became a lot of their ways. And we're born into this world with that nature until we come to a place where we can find truth and realize that, there's a new nature out there. And this nature cleans us up. And we have to be honest with ourselves. I need you, Lord. I need you to clean me up. I need a new birth, and I need a divine nature. And that's where, when you get to truth, the Bible says that God cannot lie. The Bible says God cannot lie. So there is no lying or deceit at all in God and all of his ways or all of his word. His word is right on. 2,000 years ago, today, It's the same thing.
It's the same thing, yeah.
It's the same thing. And God is trying to show us truth. And that's where in life right now, a lot of what the lies does, it covers up truth. You know, what people believe in this world a lot of times is just a flat out lie, but they don't see it because the Bible talks about blinders. It says that we get blinders over our eyes. So it talks about a darkness. You know, sometimes I think about that. So dark you can't see nothing. You know, and we can live life, you know, and yeah, the sun comes up, the light bulb goes on, we see all that, but we don't see the truth because we're living in a darkened state. Yeah. And that's what truth does. It turns the light bulbs on in a spiritual way. And what God is trying to do is use his word and use people like you and I, Justin, to be able to talk about the things of God and have people open up their eyes and say, hey, there's a whole lot more. Another thing that really gets me sometimes is people try to lie to themselves and think that there's no life after our life on this earth.
Yeah.
You know, they live that lie. I mean, they want to extend themselves. I listen to people talk about going into the future. They've got ways that you can live to be 150 or maybe 200 years old. I'm sitting there, what good is 150 or 200 years old if it ends at 150 and 200. There is a future. And that's where we live a lie a lot of times thinking that this is it. Yeah. You know, I just enjoy yourself or make up your own rules. Live your life any way you want to do it. Yeah, but at the end, it ends. You know, at the end, there is a date. There is a time.
Right. And we lie to ourselves, telling ourselves that there is no end. Right. And I think that's kind of the deception there is there's constantly some kind of underlying lie, no pun intended, but there's a lie there that we tell ourselves so long that we eventually start to believe it. Yeah. And I think that's kind of one of the tactics of the adversary is to get you to believe in lies. Like you said, he's the father of all lies. Oh, yeah. So there's a deep-rooted like deception that's been planted into your life that's not necessarily true. Yeah. That's led you to believe it to the point where it has a lot of baggage, has a lot of maybe emotional trauma, emotional baggage that comes with it.
Right.
And it's really not true, but you've allowed yourself to believe that it's true. Yeah. So a lot of times we go into these scenarios and we get into certain situations in our life and we're led by fear because of that deception. Yeah. So what happens is we don't tell ourselves, oh, this could go wrong or this could happen or this could happen. We lie to ourselves and we don't admit or we don't acknowledge certain things that could happen by making certain decisions or by getting into certain things so that when things don't work out in the end, we sit there and we wonder why it happened that way. Why does it have to happen to me? Or, you know, it almost seems like we're blindsided, like you were saying, right? With the blinders, we're like blindsided, not knowing that had we been honest with ourselves about what we were really getting into, we could have saved ourselves a lot of stress. We could have saved ourselves a lot of trauma over the, you know, all that baggage that came with it. We could have prevented that. It could have been prevented. Yep. And the enemy knows this. He knows this. This is part of his plan. And when you understand the way the Spirit works, that sense, right? That still voice, we talk about it, that, you know, maybe just that thought that's maybe just a little bit more dominant than the rest, you know, that when you understand the way the Spirit works, you can see the way that you can be deceived by the enemy and the Spirit, because he wants to get you to a place where you believe in those lies and that you identify with them. He wants you to identify with those. It's a lot of it is in your identity. He understands how important your identity is because your identity is to God. You are a child of God. We're children of God, right? We're created in the image of God. Yeah. So that's our identity, and he wants to take that from us. Yeah. So when you become a believer, you understand that nobody can take that from you because your identity is in him.
That's right.
Right. Your identity is in God. Yeah. It is in Jesus. Like you're saying, it is in the truth. Your identity is the truth. That's you true. Are the one who was an ambassador to God, that's Jesus Christ. So when you believe in that, the enemy is going to send all of this deception into your life to try to pull you away from the truth.
That's true. That's true. And,
That's true.
And that's where, our identity, it's amazing how much we've given up our identity, what you're talking about there a little bit. And a lot of it's with lies. Lies are telling us we're this or that or whatever it is. We were meant to be great. We were meant to be wonderful. God has had a tremendous plan for each and every one of us. But it's interesting in this world because there's a lot of other plans that are thrown out there. There's a lot of fictitious stuff. Because I look at, it's, getting into novels and getting into, not saying there's anything wrong with some of that stuff, but getting into even TV programs, not saying there's anything wrong with some of that stuff. But a lot of times what it does, it feeds us with different thoughts, different ideas. All of a sudden we identify with different things and stretch out in different areas. We try to find happiness. A lot of times the advertising world says this will make this, or they'll put the best looking people with the best clothes and you'll be happy if you have this or drive this car or live in this area and all this. But you can go after all this, or you can find people who have it all and you find out they're no happier. A lot of them are more miserable than we are.
Right.
But God says there is something where true joy can take place. When we get into His Word and into His realm and the way He designed mankind to live, when we're honest with ourselves and say, hey, you know what? I am going to seek a source. I'm going to seek the source of life and try to find out what true joy and true happiness is. And I'm going to not only allow it to be a part of me, I'm not going to live a lie anymore. I'm going to be honest with myself. I'm going to be honest with everybody around. Because I know the Bible talks about a lake of fire. It says, all liars shall be cast into the lake of fire. And it talks about this in the book of Revelation of Jesus Christ. But, you look at that. What is the lake of fire? What is hell as far as the Bible's concerned? I think we create our own hell, by living a lie and doing some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Because we struggle in that area. And a lot of times the truth sets us free so we can see things the way they really are. And we won't accept this stuff because we realize, like you're saying, Justin, it comes in different colors. It comes in different shapes. But a lot of it's not real. We get ourselves caught up thinking that this stuff is real. This is what's going to make my life great. I'm going to, live forever. No, I'm going to have a time where I'm going to pass. These times, these moments are ever so precious. And that's where I don't want to get myself caught up in a fantasy world where it's not real, where I'm thinking, things that are not real, that this is what's going to make me happy, or this is what I'm living, or I play another role. A lot of people get caught up in lies and they're playing another role. It isn't really who they are. They lie to themselves. Basically, they're living another person's life that it's not even them, but they're believing this lie. And it's not being honest with yourself.
Right. Yeah. And see, I can't agree with that more because most of my life, I've always felt like just different, from other people in the sense that the world is going this way and I want to go in the other direction.
Yeah.
And almost to the point where I want to lead somewhere else. I want to set trends somewhere else, but I was conformed to the world. And that was the issue. Yeah. And the enemy uses that, Satan uses that. He uses that of you. And I think that sense there, when you have that sense that you're not supposed to be like everybody else, that is the spiritual sense speaking to you, trying to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah.
But in my case, I was always worried about I was being conformed to the world. I was always worried about what the world is doing, what the next trend is, whatever it was considered cool, that's what I wanted to be because I was conformed to the world. Yeah. I was riding the carousel, not realizing that it's all fake, not realizing that the truth is actually out there, not realizing that I'm actually just believing in my own lies, not realizing that I'm a completely different person when I'm around these people, when I'm around this person, but then I'm a different person when I'm, when I'm home alone or when I'm with my significant other. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you start you start pretending to be different things, almost like the enemy pretends that he's God and he's not actually God.
Yeah.
Right. So his goal is to get you to believe, to reject yourself. And the way that you reject yourself is by believing in your own lies and not being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you're not honest with yourself and you get yourself into situations, you keep going back to that spouse, you keep getting it back into that relationship,
Right.
you keep going back to those drugs, telling yourself this is going to be my last time.
Yeah.
And it's not your last time because you were not honest with yourself.
Right.
You get wrapped up in that. You get wrapped up in his web. You get wrapped up and you fall for his plans every time. And what it eventually ends into, it leads you down to a path of rejection.
Yeah.
And it's one of two things. You're going to reject yourself and you're going to use that perpetual cycle of suffering, but you're going to use that constant use of being dishonest with yourself that left you in that same state of suffering.
Right.
You're going to use that to punish yourself. And you're going to think of all these things that allowed that to happen to punish yourself and reject yourself. The second thing is you're going to use that to allow yourself to be rejected by other people. And you're going to allow those lies that were always lies to manifest into they're now going to manifest themselves to allow yourself to think that you're rejected by everybody else.
Yeah,
so you're rejected by yourself and you're rejected by everybody else. And then what happens?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All hope is gone, right? And that's the ultimate plan. So it's understanding the tactics. It's understanding that and getting ahead of those. That's why we're honest. That's why we have integrity. That's why we need to walk righteously.
We do.
The Bible talks about being upright.
Yes.
But it's one step at a time. But it's peeling back those layers, right? And understanding how these tactics work so we can get ahead of them.
Oh, yeah. That's so true there, Justin, because I think, we live in a society today when we talk a little bit about, we create our own hell. And by not believing the things God would have us to believe, and we get ourselves all messed up, and a lot of times people, they don't know who they're supposed to be. The world says you need to look like this, you need to be this, you got to be talented in this, and you got to know this.
Wear this, eat this.
Yeah, you got all this sort of thing. But that's a big lie. That's a big lie that people believe and get sucked into. And a lot of times people live a life, and I don't know if that's any of you guys out there, but a lot of times people feel like they are really not what they're meant to be. They feel like, they're really depressed on who they are and what they're doing and what they've become. But, I always tell people God had a drawing board. He knew what he was doing. He actually knew what sex you're supposed to be. He wasn't trying to confuse anybody, and that's where a lot of times people don't have any understanding of who they're meant to be, what they're supposed to look like. So they lived in a downtrodden life where if we could accept who we are and God created us to be exact, you are beautiful exactly the way you are.
100%.
You don't have to be nothing else but what God created in you. And once we can get over that and realize that life is meant to be enjoyed in Him and being who we are and not believing all these lies that go out. I know I heard an interesting comment this past week. It said that young people are very sensitive, and I'm just going to use this to BS, and that's where they know what garbage is. And I know myself, I know Justin and I, we talk about this a lot, but we talk about having a message that can reach people with truth, that it isn't something that, people are going to smell this and say, hey, these guys don't know what they're talking about, but something that can cut through the lies and break through the lies, because these lies are powerful. They got holes on people. The Bible says that Jesus came to set the captives free. A lot of the captives in our world right now are people who believe a lie. And I know I talk with people once in a while, and they talk about different things and saying, basically that God made a mistake. I don't believe God made a mistake. I know God designed everything the way it was birthed into this world. But we got a group of people out there that are saying we need to be different. No, you're believing a lie, and that's where people, they're not happy. And it's a small percentage, but it's changed the whole culture in our country and our whole world. These young people, a lot of the stuff they're doing right now, as far as snatch and grab and and all the violence and stuff, they're just crying out. They're crying out for the truth, but yet the truth isn't there for them. So they're believing a lie, and they're walking this totally confused, not knowing what the truth might be.
Yeah, and it's so easy to not understand the truth when you're surrounded by lies.
Yeah,
because like you said, you're living in darkness. You
Yes.
can't see anything. It's
No.
hard to see if there's any light there. That's why it's hard to even see if God exists. It's
Yeah.
hard to see if we even have a God in this world.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that don't understand because they're living in darkness.
Yes, they
And
are.
One way of getting out of that darkness is by surrounding yourself with honesty, because the lies that you tell to people, when you understand the opposite is true in your mind, when you understand that the opposite is true in your heart, it's going to eat at you.
Yeah.
Because you know it's not true. Deep down, you know it's not true. The
Right.
words you said to somebody, it might be easy to say something to somebody. Those words that you said to somebody, it might be easy to say that, but what you're going to find out is you know that to not be true.
Yeah.
So when you know that, it's going to create a toxicity in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to come back. It's going to fester. These things do happen over time when they're not properly dealt with. And that dishonesty it's going to backfire on you.
Oh, yeah.
So whether it happens in 1 year, in 5 years, in 25 years,
Right.
you got to curb it. And you have to start by making sure that you get rid of the deception. You got to make sure that there is no deception in your life in all ways that you can, because
Yes.
there's going to be so many ways that deception can infiltrate into your life,
Yeah.
especially as a believer. When you say that you believe in Jesus, you now say that you believe in the truth.
That's right.
Because Jesus said he's the truth,
is
the way,
the
and the
truth.
life.
That's
And when
right.
you believe in the truth, guess what? The father of lies is going to come into your life and he's going to try to attack
Oh,
you.
yeah.
And what he's
Yeah.
going to do is there's going to be events that you are triggered by, and not even things that you're triggered by, but there's trigger events
Yeah.
that when they happen in your life, there's certain things that happen that cause you to go into a pattern, into a spiral, and then you always respond the same way each time.
Yeah.
And the reason you do that is because you're predictable. And for a lot of you people out there, they are predictable.
Right.
Even their spouses would say that they're predictable.
Yeah.
Not saying that's a bad thing, but these are the tactics that the adversary uses against you because he wants to keep you predictable.
That's right. That's right.
Seriously. So the moment that you get out of that state of being predictable, that predictability, is when you can start to fight back.
Yeah.
Because when this happens to you, you would always go and call this person, or you would always go back to this person, or you'd always go back to this way of medicating through the situation.
Yeah.
That was your trigger event. Once you can understand that, you can get yourself to a point where you're unpredictable.
Yeah.
So the enemy, he doesn't know what's going to happen to you. So
Right.
when you get to a point where you feel like you've lost all hope, you feel like there's nobody left, and like I was saying, the rejection, when you start to reject yourself,
Yeah.
you can find something to be thankful in. You can start to think of all the things in your life that you're thankful for. You can start to understand that even though I feel like I'm hopeless, well, I'm living a life of honesty, and I'm
Right.
living a life full of truth, and I'm living a life for the one who told me I will have more abundant life.
That's right.
And once you have that, no level of deception can take that from you.
Yep, that is right. Those are such words of hope there, Justin, because I'm hoping that we're smarter than that. I know a lot of times people would like to keep us in an ignorant way, but I hope we're smarter than that. But I
Yeah.
know, just a little side note here, I teach young people once in a while, and I remember teaching a class on honesty and telling how important it is to tell the truth. Because once you tell one lie and somebody hears that and believes the lie and finds out that you have told a lie, they will never trust you again.
Yeah.
It'll take a long time to recover from one lie. And that's why, you have to be making sure that not only are you living an honest life, but the things you say to people, the stuff you say, once you tell a lie, you're not truthful anymore, and you don't feel comfortable with yourself, because you're a liar. And I always tell them, how many lies does it take to become a liar? Is it one lie, or is it 20 lies, or is it 100 lies? I was telling him, maybe it's just one lie and you are a liar. And, and you could live your whole life a liar. And I know, I was telling him that basically, like the hell on earth, you create your own hell.
Yeah.
You create your own misery, own pain. That's where Jesus wants to give us a breakout moment in our life where we can be free of all this, where not only do we start being honest with ourselves, not only do we speak the truth, but we start believing the truth and we start casting lies out of us. All of a sudden we can sense what's true and what is not true.
Yeah.
That is a peaceful life.
We're led by all truth.
That is right. That's a good life.
And that's when you can start to see the certain things that are the distractions that are constantly going up to just, to keep you away from the truth, to pull you away from the truth.
Yeah.
And there's these things that, like I was saying before, there's these certain things that happen in our life that constantly put us through the same spells.
Yes.
And they put us through the same patterns.
Yeah.
And we have become very predictable to the one that wants to see us fail.
Yeah, yeah.
Not the one that wants to see us prosper.
No.
Not the God that wants abundant life for us, wants to see us prosper, wants to see us flourish.
Yeah.
The one that wants to see us fail.
We're predictable.
We're very predictable. And we're going to, as long as we stay predictable, we'll fall to the same schemes.
Yeah.
We'll fall into the same pits that are always there for us. Yeah. The same traps. We call them traps.
That's true. I got one thing I want to mention here, Justin. Yeah. Kind of good. This here really hits my funny bone sometimes.
Yeah.
Is I go on Facebook or Instagram, and I've been around some of this stuff where you see people that are fighting and arguing, families or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden somebody pulls out a camera and says, "We want to take a picture," and they're all wrapping their arms around each other. They all got smiles on their faces, and they snap this beautiful picture, and then they put it on Facebook, and then they got all these people believing that they got a loving and a happy family. Well, that's a lie.
It's a lie,
and that's where I look at a lot of people, that are having miserable lives. Things are not going at all well for them, but yet when they get themselves in a certain scene, they'll put on a big smile and make it look at what I got for dinner or whatever it might be. And I say to myself, man, there's a lot of stuff out there that really isn't true. It gets covered up, but yet everybody thinks, my life isn't what it needs to be. Look how happy they are. Well, they're not really happy. A lot of this is just a cover-up. It's just a cover-up made to look good. So everybody says, I know I ran across a lady this weekend, and I said, I can see by your Facebook that you got a really good family. You're doing a good job. See, I don't know. I mean, every time she puts a picture on Facebook, the kids got smiles on their faces and they're all dressed up nicely. I mean, that household could be a terrible household, but it's amazing how we live in a society that promotes everything as being perfect when a lot of people are just flat out living a lie because it isn't really that way.
Yeah, that's true. We definitely have that. It glamorizes things and it makes, so you believing in that person and seeing this picture and that there's a deception there that now you're also believing in a lie because like you were saying, like it makes it look like this person lives their life a certain way and they really don't.
No.
And so there's a lot of deception there.
Yeah.
The most important thing though is through living through that deception is to be honest with other people, but to also be honest with yourselves.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a perspective that not a lot of people really would understand. This is a perspective that a lot of people wouldn't normally notice in their life, that they're lying to themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to see when you're lying to other people. Sometimes it's not easy, but sometimes it's hard to see when you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times it's been happening for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
The moment you start to realize that is the moment you start to realize that it hasn't just been happening recently. It's been going on for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been, a lot of the times it's part of your personality trait. Mm-hmm. It's part of yourself. It's an identity that you might have, acquired a long time ago, was believing in certain lies that you've been telling yourself. It's the moment that you've flip. It's the moment that you turn and you flip that belief system that you can start to understand and acknowledge those ways of lying to yourself. You can start to acknowledge that deception that was there, that everything can turn in your life just by understanding that what you were believing in and what you were telling yourself were lies.
Oh, yeah. Because a lot of times what happens here, Justin, is this becomes a very familiar part of you. You know, you start living a life, and this is what you're familiar with. This is what I've been living for the last 10, 15, 20 years, you know, living a lie or pretending to be something that I'm not, you know, and that's hard. It's hard. And to know the truth and realize that you've been living a lie, and that's tough to know, but it's tough to break away from all that. And that's where it comes to having a relationship. That's where Jesus says, you know, I want to help you with this. You know, I'm going to help you with this. I'm going to show you the truth. And that's where I know myself, I need to come to the source. I need to get into the Word. I need to hear stuff like we're talking about here today, and I need to get things fed into me that can show me truth and help clear up my eyes. You know, gradually I'll start to see things the way they really are. Gradually I'll be able to look in the mirror and see who I really am, you know, and appreciate that and be able to thank God for the opportunity I've been given right now to be who I am, you know, and I don't have to live a lie anymore. I can be who I am. I call myself Don. A lot of people call me a lot of things, but I call myself Don. But I can be Don. I don't have to be anybody else. I don't have to pretend to be anybody else. I am who I am.
Shameless.
Yes, shameless. And trying to be the best version of me, of what God created. And that's where each and every one of us can be that. We can look in the mirror. We can call out our name. I am going to be the person I am seeing in the mirror. I'm not going to believe lies anymore. And I'm not going to try to be somebody I am not. I am going to be happy with what I have been created to be. I'm going to live the life. How many years we have here, I'm going to live that, but I'm going to have peace in my heart because it's going to be an honest life. It's going to be an honest day's work. It's going to be my honest relationship with other people. I'm going to be honest with myself, and I'm going to be honest with my God that had created me. And I know I've got some weaknesses, but He's going to help me with this because that's what He promised to do. But I have to acknowledge Him and realize that I am not going to live a life full of lies and deceit and cover up. It's going to be exposed. I'm going to be free of this.
Yeah, I choose to live higher now.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up for today.
This was a good one, Justin.
I think so too. Hey, we're glad you guys found your way here today, and we hope you can join us again next week for another good word. Until then, stay blessed
by the best.
See you guys.